All right, guys, what's going on? Two game NBA slate today. Members only, free to the public. It's a holiday, so we're trying to lessen our workload for it, but still cover all the stuff that we've gone into. Good luck on your baseball today. Let's talk this one over real quick, my friend.
Yeah, let's get it, man. Two games tonight, so it shouldn't be too difficult for us. One game I expect to be closer than the other.
I'm assuming you're expecting Utah-Memphis to be close?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start with that, and let's just talk about game theory for 2 seconds before we get into individual players. Won several in NBA GPPs by using the strategy of going very, very hard on one game. And I'm with you on this one. Like, if you think Philly rolls is just a vastly superior team, or in your mind, if you think Washington rolls is a desperate team, which is not the way I look at it, but if that's the story you tell yourself, I also really like Utah and Memphis to be a good game, and you can go hard on that one.
It's hard for me to tell the story of Washington rolling because I feel like that game, like, if Washington gets up big, that's like what you want. You know what I mean? Like, unless they just get up so big that Philly's like, oh, we're up 3-0. But it's the playoffs. Like, even with the Clippers in Dallas last night, like, those guys were playing most of the fourth quarter in a 25-point game. So
same with Celtics. Jason Tatum was out there super late, even though that game was over.
yeah, so like, I don't know. I'm with you. I expect the Utah-Memphis game to be a lot closer. And if I'm picking a game, it's that one. There really isn't much from the first game that I like, and that scares me.
Well, it's hard not to like the Philly guys.
Well, right, but I don't want to spend like big money on them, especially if I think this game is going to get out of hand. I think that Harris is my favorite.
Well, Harris is the most consistent because on any given day you can run the offense through Embiid or Ben Simmons, but his scoring is always needed. He's been really good in every game this series, minus the second game where he was still okay, but he left early and then there was a blowout, so there was no reason to force him back. He's the most trustworthy piece in my opinion. Embiid's super cheap today, so yeah. I get going here. It makes a lot of sense.
So, I was going to say the other thing about the last game, and unlike most other series, I feel like there are a lot of players from Utah and Memphis that are in play, like more than most other teams, I think.
Well, the first game's chalk, too. So I think it's really worth noting that people are going to load up on the first game. They're going to use Ben Simmons, Harris, and Embiid are all going to be popular. Danny Green's going to get a little bit of love, which, again, he deserves because of his price point and the lack of paydown options on this slate. Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook would both get more love. The second game is going to go under owned. So if you believe, like we do, that this is the better game, it's got less appealing pieces because they're not going against Washington. But if you want to employ like a game stack scenario, let's just say you start with the easiest play of the day, which is Mike Conley, who's, again, massively underpriced. And let's just say you just pick like Royce O'Neal right here. And then maybe like a Rudy Gobert. And then we can get into Donovan Mitchell or not to Donovan Mitchell. That's completely up to you. On the flip side of things, you can go with like a Dylan Brooks, who's been balling. You can use Slow-Mo, who continues to play well. And in this situation, I probably want to get a little Ja Morant in my life.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely want Ja Morant tonight. I feel like if Memphis is going to hang in this game, and I think they will. Like, I think Memphis wins this game.
Okay. I don't necessarily agree nor disagree with you. I think all we care about is a close one.
Yeah.
All these guys, like Mike Conley, again, we talked about it the other day. This is one of the easiest plays on the slate, yet nobody's using him. I had him at like 20% again the other day.
Yeah, you just play him.
Now, he will not be 20% again today because it's only a 2-game slate. But for some reason, this is where like the playoff adjustments, people just don't make it. And he's balled all 3 games in a row for a reason. Like this, I don't know. He's already on the cover for today's slate, even though we haven't talked it over yet. Mitchell hadn't played in a month and a half. They're easing him back in. Now, he might play more today and be a little bit more ball dominant. But Conley can drop 10 DK points and still be a good play.
Yeah, I agree.
So I like the idea. Like for me, if I run a 3-entry max today, I'm going to have a full-out game stack of this game in one of them. Play to the notion of it being close. And just, I mean, it's entirely possible that Philly just rolls the game because they're just a lot better than Washington, and it's a bad matchup for Washington.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, Philly doesn't look like they're playing around.
You might be muted or we're at a quick internet influx.
We're back?
Yeah, we're back.
I said Philly doesn't look like they're messing around at all.
No, not only are they substantially better, it's just a bad draw for Washington. So it all matches up for Philly just to kind of kind of roll again. They're David and Washington's Goliath in this one. It's a mismatch.
Washington is not that good at all. I mean,
yeah, and Philly is.
Yeah, exactly. Philly's real good. I mean, Philly is the top three teams in the East are all real good.
Yeah, and then the other teams behind them aren't nearly as good. As far as the guys on Washington go, Westbrook's going to play, so don't even worry about the questionable tag. The one guy I can get on board with would be Daniel Gafford, because I think he's game script proof. He's cheap, which you don't have a lot of this one. And like, if this game is like over early, like he could still see extra minutes. This is a guy who's been wildly dependent in recent memory. He's a good DFS player, not a great real life player, but he's a good DFS player. He's pay down.
Yeah, I'm with that, man. And you got to play at least one guy from this game anyway. So I get that Gafford call. I was actually looking at both backup centers, him and Howard.
Okay. Now, the whole flip side of this conversation comes down to the idea that if you're playing a cash game, Philly and Washington is going to be insanely more popular. So if you want to get like a Beal into your lineup, who's been solid throughout the series, again, he lost some production last game as they just have to be out there for the last few minutes. And then load up with Simmons and Embiid or Harris or whoever it might be. I also understand why you would play to the more 30,000-foot view appealing type of scenario. And if I was playing cash games, I would be loaded up on Philly. Ben Simmons was a little bit of a bust the other day. He wasn't terrible. It's just that this game, he didn't have to do anything, right? Like Embiid balled, Harris balled. He just didn't have to do much.
Mm-hmm, no doubt.
So I completely understand all the Philly guys. Simmons is now more expensive. Embiid's cheaper. So I think today there's a little bit of a shift, and Embiid might really gain in popularity while Simmons might lose a little.
Yeah, for sure. This is the perfect example of like, just because Embiid balled last time out doesn't mean that like the ownership is going to sway now. So I like zigging when other people zag. I like Simmons over Embiid today. I mean, and the salary isn't the least bit a part of it too. He's like 2,000 cheaper.
And honestly, like, they're both wildly in play. We know how bad Washington is. Washington will be fighting today. We agree it's a mismatch, but the hardest game to win is the closeout game. I consider, Beal and Westbrook prideful players that will fight today. It doesn't mean that they're going to be competitive, but I can completely understand why anybody would want to think that. Danny Green, once again, solid paydown option. Good in game one. Didn't have to do much game two. Good in game three. There aren't a lot of guys in this price range that are playable.
For sure. No doubt about it.
So, Bertans can be a deep GPP call. Rui has not really done anything throughout this series that makes me want to play him, but it doesn't mean he couldn't be good today.
These guys are all just in the backpack that Beal and Westbrook are carrying.
Pretty much. I mean, not quite to the extent of all the Brooklyn guys with the big three, but like a really close second place on that one.
A really close second place. The guys on Brooklyn, I still think are better though. But Brooklyn.
Well, there's three of them versus two, right?
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, it is like that, but and the guys on Brooklyn are better than the ones on Washington, even if there were only two of them, except for Kyrie, in my opinion. Kyrie is on the level of Beal and Westbrook, and the other two are better.
Yeah, no arguments here. Kevin Durant's the best of them, still, in my opinion. But none of that's really important today, except for the fact that we want to talk about the strategy, how they divvy up the points to like the crappier players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like the Gafford call. I think he's the way to go there.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of paydown options. There's 2 games. It's the playoffs. Like, where else are you going to go? And again, if you want to get weird with things, like play Seth Curry and Danny Green, skip the big money guys, use the bigger money guys in the later game, because like we talked about this the other day. Curry's now cheaper too. Like Curry and Green hit a bunch of threes early, and this game is just over.
I thought about that. I also think that that's real. I mean, well, we know it's real risky because like they could do nothing, and then they could not do that much. Like role players on the road always scares me.
Yeah, I would say that like Curry and Green are at least cheap enough that they're low risk.
Yeah, they're low risk, but I mean, I could see each one getting 15 here.
Yeah. They may not kill your lineup today, though, with a 2-game slate.
Well, the thing is, if they only get 15, then I'm sure the big guys from Philly are doing something well is the problem.
I mean, if you want to shoot your shot with like cheaper backup guys on Philly because you think the game's a blowout, I understand it. We seem to agree that Harris, we find to be the most dependable, is also very, very cheap. I get the argument for Simmons or Embiid. I get the argument for playing both. I get the argument for playing neither.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
Okay, now if I was just going to set like one lineup, and let's just pretend like you play one lineup, you divvy it up between cash and GPP. I'm going to start with Mike Conley is the lock of the day. I think for us, like Tobias Harris, right?
Yeah. I am a little more hesitant than Conley than you are, honestly. Like, I'm just not he's done it for 3 games in a row. It's definitely going to happen a fourth. Like, one of these games, I think Mitchell is going to take over. I think in tournament.
And Mitchell is getting healthier every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not saying he's not a good play. It's a 2-game slate. I'm just more hesitant than you are. I was the last time as well, though, and we saw how that worked out.
Yeah, for me, the big thing with Mike Conley is in the playoffs, it's not 30 minutes a game anymore. He's playing upper 30s, and a lot of these are mid to upper 30s. Whereas in the regular season, he's like a 28 to 32 per minute guy, which is one of the reasons he started off the playoffs so mispriced.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's been awesome. I do think that, I don't expect 50 every game. I'll say that.
No, but I do find him to be, if you go back to last year's playoffs and everything like that, like he is a 40 to 45 point per game closer type of guy. Maybe you don't get 50, but he can dip 10 points and still be a good play.
Yeah, for sure. I get it.
He hasn't even had a steal yet throughout the playoffs. So, like, we mentioned this last game, and I said, like, he probably won't get double-digit assists every game, but he can get you somewhere else. Last game he did it with the 3-ball. Today he can get 3 steals.
I was going to say, he's also shooting, like, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 10 of his last 15 from 3. He's shooting 66% over the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, he's still under 50% from the floor, though.
He shot 50% from the floor both games, both the last 2, and he's 10 of 15.
Yeah, but for the series, under 50% from the floor. Like, and he has steals. Like, there's a variety of ways he can do it, and he will dip from 50 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, I look at him more as like 35 to 40, which is still solid at this price point, but not quite like, oh, you have to lock him in. I'm just not as worried about it as you are. Like, I don't know. I looked at it like yesterday. Like, I thought Kyrie was like a slam dunk. Everyone was off him after he didn't play well in Boston. He was like probably the best play on the slate. Kind of the opposite with Conley. Now everyone's going to be on Conley for how he's played.
Yeah, because it's a 2-game slate. I think Conley's been unowned for 3 slates, but I think he's mostly been on bigger slates too. I know at least 2 of the 3 have been 4-gamers because one goes back to last Saturday and then one was 2 days ago. I don't remember how big the slate was when he played the second game. Probably 3 games.
His game log is damn impressive, and he's still only projected for like 30% ownership, which on a 2-game slate is small. So I could be off everywhere here.
Well, I understood game 1. Again, there's always like adjustments that need to be made postseason to regular season, why he wasn't chalk. He's also played in the late game twice, which always affects ownership. So I do expect him to be more popular today, but maybe he won't be that much more popular because people want all the Philly pieces.
Yeah, and Westbrook's getting projected a lot of love. I don't get that.
He was better last game from a DFS perspective. And I know he left early game 2, but don't want to talk about probably not going to make your threes at as high of a rate. He doesn't usually make 3 3-pointers.
And I'll say this, just so we can wrap this up quickly. Like, you have been spot on with Conley. And if I had been spot on like that, I'd be locking him in and moving on. So I get it.
Well, and for me, like, it goes back before even game 1 when he was, I thought, one of the easiest plays on the slate. So, yeah, he's made me look good 3 times in a row. But that's kind of what I expected out of him. I think he's in the playoffs, like, it's him, not Joe Ingles.
Yeah, agreed. It's just a matter of how healthy Mitchell is.
The other guy from Utah, like Rudy Gobert, has been rock solid. Like, I know you liked him a lot game 2 where he outscored Embiid at a lot lower cost. He's just kind of to take a term from you, a cog in the machine type of play.
Yes, sir.
So, again, I like the idea of game stack in the last game. And then maybe just picking your favorite of the big 3 from Philly. Like, maybe you think it's Ben Simmons Day. Maybe you think it's Embiid. One of those guys is probably going to be awesome, and that's why Philly does really well. Just pick your favorite and then maybe build the second game around that.
I'm with it 100%.
So that's what we got for today, guys. Best of luck. You got baseball lineups to set. You got all your other things to do. Tell yourself a story on these 2-game slates. And if you think both games are close, then spread your ownership out. But if you think the last game is close and the first one's a blowout, maybe roll like a Simmons Curry or Simmons Green or something, or Embiid, whoever, and then load up on the last game.
I also kind of think you made the point, Washington is they're not going to be able to stop Philly, but you're going to see I either think this game is kind of gets out of hand from a Philly perspective, or Washington plays really hard, and whether or not they win the game or not, they make it hard on Philly.
I have no faith in Washington being able to do that, but they're going to try, right?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
You would think so, right? We've seen teams throw in the towel when they're down 3-0. I do not expect that from Washington, but are they able to is a totally different story.
Agreed.
So, guys, good luck today. Go win yourself some money.
Thanks, guys.